Hi, welcome back. This is video number 2 under the system component of designing a leadership pipeline for your small group ministry. You will have completed or got a lot of work done on a worksheet just recently that helped you look at and diagnose your current system. And now what I want to help you do is move forward to see if you notice there were gaps that you want to fill in, how to go about doing that. I'm going to share again from some slides to move us forward. And what you're going to discover here, there we go, is when you are looking at a system, it's best to do, like I said in the previous video, to have something in writing, a document of some sort, some way of putting it down so that anybody who wants to use the system can. And I want to share with you some examples of aligned, healthy onboarding systems that some churches who've gone through this process have come up with. And there's two common practices for this. One is to utilize an acronym, and the other is to just put it down, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a listing of the different components in some kind of chronological order, usually, but without using an acronym. The two acronyms that different churches have used, and now I'm going to share one of those with you. One church here uses the acronym RISE. RISE. And so here's their onboarding system for someone who wants to move to a new level of leadership. First, they recruit. That's what the R stands for. And then they list how they go about doing that. I is they interview those people. And this talks about how they move forward with that. S is for shadow. And so they're saying this is how we're going to help them get ready to lead in a new level, is to shadow someone who's already there. And finally, E stands for equip. This is how we're going to equip them once they're in that position. So that is one example of using an acronym, RISE. Let me share another one with you here. This one, all right. This one uses the acronym APPS, 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 or AAPS, sorry. A is apply. So if you want to become a team member, or if you want to move to this next level of leadership, this is particularly a team member. A is for apps. Apply, they need to apply, and this is how they would go about doing that. It's written down, talks about the way that we want to do this as a church so it can become easy for everybody to use. Here's how we're going to then assess them after they've applied, and this breaks that down. The P stands for prepare. Here's how we're going to prepare them now to lead in this level of leadership. And then finally, S stands for support. Here's how we're going to support them after they arrive and start serving at this level of leadership. So those are two examples of using acronyms. And now I'm going to share an example of not using an acronym. There we go. Perkinsville. So Perkinsville Baptist Church, here's their leader onboarding process. The next steps, to talk about an email, then there's a ministry director follow-up. So usually they say somebody's going to email us, say they're interested in this, and our ministry director will follow them up, have them fill out an application. When that's done, we'll interview them. There's going to be some documentation that we want to be written down so that there's a paper trail of being able to see what decisions got made and why. An orientation for a person who's going to be going into a new level of leadership, training, and then team participation. And part of a healthy system is also an application form. And here's their leader application. And there's 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages. Those are 3 pages there. Now, what you're going to find out in this particular document, so I'm going to be sharing all of these documents with you, and you can go and look at these for yourself. And maybe you have an application that you already use as a church, or maybe there's a different core ministry in your church that has an application. Your small group ministry doesn't. So grab that one and look at it, but then compare it to this one. There's also another application later on. This isn't just Perkinsville, but if you keep going down here, these are some role description examples. And what, keep on scrolling down, lots of role descriptions. Here's Vertical Church's system template, and their system for moving through each of these levels. And what I'd like you to do, this is an assignment for you now, would be to take the worksheet that you were working on, looking at your current reality of your system, and then look at these examples and the different ways of putting this together, and then figure out for yourself, how do we want to do this here in our church setting for our small group ministry? What can we do? And I'd love it for you, and this is a project assignment, is for you to write it down, like I did when I finally got sick and tired of having to recreate the wheel every 6 months in our church when it came to having time for our congregational meetings. Create something in writing that you can use over and over and over again. And if you want to improve it every now and then, great. But you don't have to remember all this stuff. Put it down in writing. It will be much more healthy and relational. It'll allow you to be more relational in the process. And don't worry about that. Now, so that's one assignment. Clarify your onboarding system, and then make sure you have all the supporting documents that you're going to need as well. So I'm going to go back to the slides I was sharing with you earlier. We're going to talk about training now. What kind of training does your system need? You're going to need 3 kinds of training. The prepare training that you use to get a leader ready to start serving in a new level of leadership. The equip training. Now, this is the training that you're going to provide to leaders once they're in the role. And this is ongoing. It's like continual education and continuous improvement. The training you provide your leaders so they can get better and better and better in the leadership role that they find themselves in. And then the last area is inspire. The inspire training is for all the leaders in the ministry, no matter what level they might be at. And lots of churches will actually bring together all the leaders in the church, and they provide some universal training, just one thing that all of our leaders could really benefit from. We make sure it's really good, and then we tie all of this to our vision and mission as a church so that our people can see how vitally important their leadership is to our church and our church's ability to accomplish the mission that God's given us. So that inspire training, it's pretty big. It takes a lot of planning. So you only do that once, maybe twice a year. Some churches might do it quarterly, but I would say shoot for twice a year, and you're going to be in a great spot. So when you think about the different kinds of training here, there's some prepared training options. I've sent you another document that you will have familiarized yourself with these. So what are 3 ways we can provide prepared training for our team, for our future leaders? And that would be apprentice, orientation, or a turbo group. And the differentiation of those 3 different ways are spelled out in the document that I sent you, the prepare, equip, inspire options document. There's 3 different options for equip training: huddles, classes, and workshops. Just so you know, at the church I was at most recently, we chose to use apprentice for how we were going to prepare our leaders. And then we chose huddles for how we were going to provide the equip training that they need to be successful long term. And then we planned 2 events a year for inspiring. And we tended to use what would be defined here as the conference. And there's 3 options: conference, a rally, or a seminar. And all of these options are important. So as we come to the close of this second video when it comes to system in your leadership pipeline, what I want you to be working on is defining your leadership development strategy. And in your breakout groups, as your leadership design team gets together over the next few minutes, make sure someone's taking notes again. And what I want you to do is to take that worksheet that I gave you, our leadership development strategy worksheet, and look at those 3 options for prepare and pick which one you're going to choose as a small group ministry. I also want to encourage you. Lots of churches want to develop leadership pipelines, not just for their small group ministry, but for all the core ministries of their church. So if the other core ministries don't have a leadership pipeline, probably not, since we're going through this as a collab right now, what you're going to want to do is be thinking, what would work best for the whole church, all the core ministries of the church, not just small group ministries. And as much as you can, try to align your system so that it's very smooth, and your church, people know how to move forward in being discipled and growing and developed as a leader. There's a developed pathway that works in all the core ministries. But you're thinking small group ministry right now, and you're getting to maybe blaze the trail. So I would really, this is an important decision to make. What's going to work for your church? So look through those 3 options, write that down. Then look through the 3 options for equip training. Decide which one you want to use moving forward. And then the inspire training. Again, look at the 3 options. What are the differences, and what's going to work for your church family? And then when you're done, you put all of that work you finished together, and you have your leadership development strategy as a church in a way you can state in 10, 15 seconds. Most churches, if you walk up to them and say, what's your leadership development strategy? You get 2 answers. One would be, it's organic. In other words, it just kind of happens randomly, hopefully. and that's sort of how it works. And so it doesn't produce a lot of leaders. And then other leaders just honestly say, you know what, we don't have one. Well, after you've done this, you will be able to confidently say, especially after you start implementing all this and using it, here's how we develop leaders. We prepare new leaders through X. We equip existing leaders through Y. And we inspire all of our leaders through Z. That is our intentional leadership development strategy. So that's what you're going to be working on next. I'm excited for you to make these important decisions, and then you'll be able to move further, and we'll have a 3rd video here when it comes to system. So thank you so much for your attention. Have fun working on this next project, and we'll see you in the 3rd video.